steel cable snaps across a crowded ballroom and cuts the dancers in half. It is May 1962, aboard the Italian liner Antonia Grazia. Below deck, a hand no one sees pushes a lever, and the cable draws tight across the floor. It passes above one passenger. Katie Harwood is a child, and she's small enough to live. She looks up at the captain, who asked her to dance. His face splits open at the mouth, and the top of his head slides away. She screams. The Antonia Grazia is never found. 40 years later, a stranger walks into a dockside bar and tells the salvage crew exactly where she is. He gives his name as Jack Ferriman and says he flies for a weather service. He spotted a large vessel adrift in the Bering Sea with nobody aboard her. She sits in international waters, so whoever tows her to port owns her. Captain Sean Murphy has spent his working life pulling value out of dead ships, and he takes the job. Maureen Epps asks how a weather pilot found a wreck nobody else has reported. Nobody answers her. She sails anyway on the tug Arctic Warrior, with Ferriman aboard. They come up on her in fog. She sits dead in the water, listing with rust running down her hull in long sheets and her name still readable at the bow. Her lifeboats are still in the davits. Not one passenger ever tried to leave her by boat. 40 years of open water haven't sunk her, and inside she's barely touched. The chandeliers still hang over the ballroom floor. The dining tables are still set. Epps sees a girl in a party dress standing at the far end of the ballroom. She looks again, and the girl is gone. Philip Greer hears a woman singing through the ship's vents, and the room the sound comes from is bare. Greg Dodge picks a wristwatch off a stateroom floor. It's digital, and digital watches didn't exist in 1962. Somebody else has been aboard, and not long ago. Epps and Ferriman find that crew in the laundry room. All of them are dead, and none of them are old. The salvagers keep moving through the ship. The tile around the swimming pool is pocked with bullet holes, and spent shell casings still sit in the drain. In one cabin, a skeleton hangs by a noose inside a wardrobe, small enough to be a child's. The sea didn't do any of this, and the crew stops calling the Antonia Grazia a wreck. The girl comes back for Epps and takes her into the ballroom. For a few seconds, the room is lit and full. The band plays, the floor is packed with dancers, and a woman in red sings to the room. Then the light drops out of it, and Epps is standing alone in 40 years of rot. The girl is gone again. Epps is the only one aboard who has been shown any of this, and she's the only one asking to go home. The other four have started measuring what the ship is worth. Then they find the gold. 9 wooden boxes stand in a hidden compartment, 28 bars in each one. It's more money than any of them will earn in a lifetime of salvage, and it isn't on the ship's manifest. It isn't on any manifest. A hull has to be towed in, weighed, and signed for by 3 offices. Gold can go home in a bag. Murphy stops talking about the tow, and Ferriman stands at the back of the compartment and lets him get there on his own. The man who brought them out here hasn't argued for anything since they boarded. He suggests, and then he waits. The Antonia Grazia is settling lower in the water every hour. The crew agrees to leave her where she floats, load the boxes onto the tug, and be gone by morning. Answer one question in the comments. If you found 9 boxes of gold on a wreck with no living owner, would you take them? Yes or no? And be honest about it. Katie appears on the open deck and tries to warn them off the tug. Diego Santos is already down in the Arctic Warrior, turning the engine over. An unseen hand opens a gas line, and the tug goes up with Santos inside her. The salvagers stand on a sinking liner in the Bering Sea with no boat, no radio, and 9 boxes of gold. Their only way home is the Antonia Grazia herself. They have to patch her hull, pump her out, and sail a 40-year-old wreck to port before she goes under them. The tug took the radio down with her, so nobody on land knows where these 5 people are. Nobody on land knows the ship exists. They go to work in the cold and the dark, on a vessel that has already killed 1 salvage crew. They keep the gold stacked where they can see it. It starts taking them apart while they work, 1 man at a time, always alone. Greer follows the singing until he finds Francesca, the woman who sang in the ballroom the night everyone died. She's beautiful. She's 40 years dead, and she knows about the wedding he's been talking about since they left port. Then Francesca walks him along a corridor and pulls a set of elevator doors apart for him. Greer steps through and falls the height of the ship. The wedding he'd talked about since they left port never comes up again. Murphy goes up to the captain's cabin and finds the captain of the Antonia Grazia sitting in it. The dead man explains what the liner was really carrying. In 1962, she answered a distress call from a sinking cruise ship called the Lorelei, and she took two things off her before she went down. She took the gold, and she took one survivor. The captain hands Murphy a photograph of that survivor. It's Jack Ferryman, and he hasn't aged a day in 40 years. Murphy goes looking for his crew with the photograph in his hand. On the way, the ship shows him Epps as the burned ghost of Santos, and he attacks her. The others pull him off and see a captain who has stopped making sense, so they lock him in the ship's drained fish tank until he calms down. Epps comes back later to let him out. The tank is full, the valve is open, and Murphy is floating against the glass. Nobody opened that valve. Their captain is dead, their engineer is dead, their diver is drunk on gold, and the man who found this ship for them hasn't lifted a tool since they boarded. Epps finds Katie one more time, and this time Katie takes her hand and shows her 1962. Ferryman came aboard as a rescued man with nothing, and within days, he had the crew talking about what was in the hold. The cable across the ballroom was the opening move. Then they poisoned the food of everyone the cable missed. They walked the survivors down to the swimming pool, lined them along the tile, and shot them. They killed the captain and the officers. They hanged a little girl in a wardrobe and shut the door on her. The skeleton Epps found is Katie. The laundry room makes sense now. The team Epps found down there wasn't the first crew to be brought out to this wreck, and it wasn't the second. Then the crew turned on each other. The last officer standing cut down his own shipmates with a submachine gun, and Francesca shot him between the eyes. She was the only one left alive on the whole ship. Ferryman stepped out of the dark, put his arms around her, and released a cargo hook that swung through her throat. He burned a mark into her palm while she died. Ferryman isn't a rescued man, and he isn't a pilot. He's a damned spirit working a quota. He steers living people into murder, marks the souls he collects, and carries them down. He explains it to Epps in her own trade language. She salvages ships. He salvages souls. The gold is the bait he leaves in the water and comes back for. Epps works out why he needed 6 professionals rather than 6 victims. The souls aboard the Antonia Grazia are his only ones while the Antonia Grazia floats. He didn't bring a salvage crew out here to rob them. He brought them out here to keep his ship above the waterline. Sinking her takes every soul aboard out of his hands. There isn't time to explain any of this to the 2 men still alive. Munder is already down in the flooded engine room in a dive suit, working a jammed pump so the ship they're standing on stays up another hour. The gears close on him while he works. Epps sends Dodge to keep Ferryman talking on the bridge while she runs charges through the hull. Ferryman tells Dodge exactly what Dodge has never managed to tell Epps, then walks straight at him. Dodge fires a shotgun into his chest and watches him go down. In the hold, Dodge finds Epps at the last charge. He tells her Ferryman is dead, that the gold is still aboard, and that the 2 of them could build a life on it. Epps asks him why he hasn't asked about Munder. Dodge's face turns into Ferryman's face. Ferryman makes her an offer. She can walk off this ship alive if she leaves him the hull and everyone inside it. Epps has watched this ship take 5 people and offer her a share of what it took them for. She sets the charges off instead. The Antonia Grazia breaks open and goes down, and Ferryman goes down in pieces with her. Katie pulls Epps up through the wreckage to the surface, and every soul the ship was holding rises off the water with them. Katie stops long enough to thank her. Then they're gone, and Epps is alone in the debris. A cruise ship picks her up and carries her back to land. She's on a stretcher at the dock, alive, the only one, and she watches crates come up the gangway. They're the same 9 boxes. The men carrying them have the faces of her dead crew. Jack Ferryman walks up the ramp behind the gold, whole, unhurried, dressed for the crossing. He looks at Epps as he passes. She screams, and the ambulance doors close on her. Here's what that last shot is telling you, and it isn't that Epps failed. She won the only fight that was available to her. Every soul the Antonia Grazia was holding, Katie included, came off that water free, and it happened because 1 person out of 6 wouldn't take the money. What she couldn't do is end Ferryman. He was never attached to the Antonia Grazia. He was attached to the boxes. The liner was a container he'd used for 40 years. When Epps took the container off him, he loaded the same cargo onto a working cruise ship and started again. The gold does the work for him. He only has to carry it up a ramp and wait for somebody to want it. Underneath the demon, the film is about what people agree to stop counting. Every character in it is a salvager. The crew pulls value out of dead ships for a living, and the film opens with them being paid for a hole they dragged in. Ferryman does the same work with souls, and he says so out loud. The difference between the two trades is one line in a ledger. 6 people find gold that belongs to nobody. 5 of them decide it's cargo. The one who keeps asking who it belonged to first is the one who walks off the water. The ship is the other half of it. The Antonia Graza is a sealed room with no door. No Coast Guard, no port, no other vessel, and no ground under it. When Murphy is drowning in a fish tank, the nearest help is 1,000 miles away and doesn't know the ship exists. Ferryman doesn't need to be strong. He needs 6 people alone with money nobody has claimed, and the Bering Sea hands him that for free. There's one detail the film never explains, and it's the one that stays. Ferryman is standing at a dock in daylight with a crew of dead men and a cargo of gold, and not one person on that pier stops him. He doesn't need to hide. He's carrying the only thing that has ever worked. The crew sailed out to take what the dead couldn't hold on to, and so did he. Ghost Ship was released on October 25, 2002, directed by Steve Beck. It was his second film, after 13 Ghosts the year before. He'd come up through visual effects, with art director credits on The Abyss and Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. Joel Silver, Robert Zemeckis, and Gilbert Adler produced it for Dark Castle Entertainment. From a screenplay by Mark Hanlon and John Pogue, the film very nearly wasn't supernatural at all. Hanlon's original spec script was called Chimera, and it was a bloodless psychological thriller about 4 salvagers losing their minds on a derelict ship. No demon, and almost no gore. The rewrites took the psychology out. Beck has said the studio wanted a clearer fight between good and evil, and that the climate after September 11th pushed it that way. No real liner was ever used. Beck scouted actual ships and gave up on them, because a steel hull leaves a camera crew nowhere to put a dolly. The Antonia Graza was built as sets on sound stages in Queensland. A full-scale bow went up outdoors, and a 35-foot miniature was filmed on Moreton Bay for the shots at sea. Her design was based on the SS Andrea Doria. The only real vessel in the film is the tug. While they were shooting on her, a feeding frenzy brought close to 1,000 sharks within 50 yards of the boat. The Ballroom Massacre was built from practical effects and digital work together. The film never gets near it again, and the reviews said so at the time. Rotten Tomatoes has it at 14%, and opening night audiences graded it a C+. It still took $68 million worldwide against a $20 million budget. Scream Factory put out a collector's edition in 2020. The opening has outlived the rest of the film. Bloody Disgusting ranked it among the best kills ever put on screen, and it still gets mentioned by people who have never even watched the whole movie. If you enjoyed this recap, please consider liking and subscribing. It would really help the channel. Thanks for watching.